the day's early kick-off was Manchester City's first game following their surrendering of the title to their neighbour. You know, West Ham's good run of late comes to an end. Manchester City win a game which pretty much assures them of second place, but it's quite a distant second from Manchester United. What's been the difference this season, Al?
Goals, I'm afraid. Aguero 24 last season, Aguero 10 this season. Dzeko's their top scorer with 12. And they missed a trick really in the summer when they didn't sign the players that they wanted to sign. Exactly the same thing happened with us at Blackburn when we won the league. We failed to go out and make any significant signings, and we were nowhere near winning the league the year after. And the same thing has happened to City here. They left it so late with the players that they wanted, they didn't get any, and that hasn't helped them at all.
There was a very interesting thing that Gary Neville was quoted as saying about being at Manchester United, and he said, "We never reached the top of the hill. So no matter what we've done, this top of the hill is still ahead of us." And I do think a lot of Manchester City players felt they'd reached the top of the hill last season.
That was just before the Man City game, wasn't it? He said.
Yeah, and that is why Roberto Mancini was so desperate to get 3 or 4 top quality players in to make that team better. So he had players in who weren't City title winners, weren't going to be complacent, wanted to prove themselves, and they didn't get them for him. And the season was almost lost in that summer because they finished level on points, but Man United made themselves better by getting Robin van Persie, and also Ferguson knew he had players who would be better. You know, the players weren't going to be better. They're already great, but they weren't going to be better. Raphael, great, you know, he's come on leaps and bounds. Jones, De Gea, twice the goalkeeper he was. So they became better, and City couldn't live with them. That was why Mancini is so annoyed at what he saw as dithering in the transfer window to make City take that next step.
Yeah, he's talking about the Fab Four against Aston Villa at Old Trafford, but I want to talk about Manchester City now, Neil. Your story on the back page of The Sun this morning, Mancini will stay beyond the end of the season. So much speculation about his future. But Alan Nixon's story, gone head-to-head with him this morning, haven't you? They say that Brendan Rodgers is the man that they want. Alan Nixon and Tom Hopkinson with this story, the Liverpool manager wanted by Manchester City. What's going on there? Because the Rodgers link is interesting, but you say Mancini's staying.
Well, from what I've been told, Mancini has the full backing of Serrano and Bergenstein at the top. Khaldun Al-Mubarak, who's the man who appointed him, is also a big supporter of them. They're already making big plans for next season. And unless the most divisive game is being played out currently at the Etihad, which the manager and all his staff are totally unaware of, from what I'm told, he is their man. And everyone, a lot of people, I think, have been presuming that he's going to go because this vast investment has not resulted in Champions League and winning the title back. But what he's done in a very short space of time, I think, has been fantastic for Manchester City. I'm sure they'll win the FA Cup. They'll have 2 FA Cups and a title. It's not just about spending the money. It's about using that money to get those players together, to create a team and to make it work. So Alex himself has said in his programme notes before the derby last year at Old Trafford that is the job you still have to do. You've still got to put those players together and make it a winning team. Liverpool have thrown millions over the years at winning the title back and haven't been able to do it. This guy has done it. And there's no more driven man around than Mancini to make it succeed. And I don't think City want to be seen as a Chelsea, who as soon as there's a season of perceived failure or going backwards, that they make a change. And I think they also recognise, which is why changes were made at boardroom level, that last summer was a mistake, that City needed to be pushed on. You see an example with Blackburn back in '95 when they won the title, didn't strengthen, and they went backward. And Mancini what has happened, Mancini could see coming. And I think the board recognised that. And I'm convinced that they back him, and he's still their man for the future. More importantly, what we don't always realise from the outside is that 99% of Manchester City fans are still fervently behind this bloke, chant his name at every game.
And so are you, by the sounds of it.
Well, I mean, I am a fan of his because I do think he's done a tremendous job for that football club.
Yeah. You go on bike rides with him and stuff.
So, John, Community, just quickly, just to wrap up this part, Community Shield at the start of the season, they beat Chelsea. They'll finish second in the Premier League. They might go on to win the FA Cup final. Is that success for Manchester City? Is that what's, in terms of expectations now?
I think the blot for them is the points total. I think you can accept finishing second, win the FA Cup, because this isn't a club that until recently was winning trophies every year. I think they'll be disappointed, rightly so, with being so far behind United. But the Champions League performance doesn't look so bad now. We see how good Borussia Dortmund, Real Madrid actually Ajax were. And until Mancini's allowed to mould his own team, which I agree with Neil, I think he'll stay and he'll get the chance to make signings in the summer. I think it'd be quite harsh to judge him on a season of so-called failure where, you know, he wasn't necessarily behind the recruiting that was done. And in terms of the recent history, giving Manchester City a trophy every season is pretty much as brief at the moment as I understand it.
I think if City get rid of him, it's exactly what Neil says. It will be, the parallel there would be what Chelsea did to Ancelotti, which is regarded as one of their biggest errors, I think. And they don't want to be, from what I know of City, they don't want to go down that road. They don't want to be seen as a knee-jerk club who are getting rid of a manager who's brought them more success than anybody else.
Yeah, OK. All right, looks like he's going to stay then. OK, Luis Suarez, he started...
The title race is over, but the season is far from it. So says Roberto Mancini himself in his programme notes, and he must rally his troops today against a rejuvenated West Ham side who come here eyeing an upset themselves. Jamie Redknapp and Niall Quinn are with us, and Niall, it's long been a case of when rather than if Manchester United would win the title. So what will this week have been like for City and their fans?
Tough week. It's been a tough year if we stop to think about it. They lived off the title for a couple of months, and then they had a very poor, tame exit from the Champions League. And I think from that moment on, it's been tough for Man City because of the emotion that was in play last year and the thought that this club was going to dominate the other half of Manchester. But as we know, not only did that not happen, but it was in spectacular style that Manchester United dominated. So I think they need credit to Manchester United when we talk about City. But this week, the players will be picking themselves up. You know, they will be in that dressing room saying, you know, and their manager too, you know, we've got to put it to one side. We've got to finish strong for our fans. We've got to show that we're definitely the second best team by a long shot. And as the manager said in his press conference and some of his notes, you know, if he can strengthen the side in the summer, then they can have a crack at getting back at Man United.
Very interesting, Jamie. Of course, the inquest has begun already, and Mancini, as Niall points out, is talking about strengthening and really suggesting that that's where the title was lost this season, last summer. Would you agree?
I do agree with that. I still don't think it's enough of an excuse to be 16 points behind Manchester United. But what I will say is last year one team lost the season on goal difference. So what did they do? They went out and bought the best goal-scoring centre-forward from the previous season at Arsenal, brought him into the equation, whereas Manchester City, to a certain extent, stood still. They didn't go and add anybody, only squad players, if you like, people like Jack Rodwell, Scott Sinclair, good footballers, but are they game changers? No, not really, and I think that has been the difference. And you can see what the Van Persie effect has had on this team.
£47 million, Jamie. Only Chelsea and Tottenham spent more than that.
I know, a lot of money, but if you look at them, and the Stadic's been a really good signing. He's coming 20 years of age. He's going to be here for many years to come. Garcia, defensive midfield player. Scott Sinclair hasn't really played. Mike on right back, not well past his best. So they're not the players that he would have wanted. I mentioned the word game changers. That is what Mancini would have liked. When he was at Inter Milan, the first year that they won the title, he went and bought Ibrahimovic. They spent £50 million that season. And he knows more than anybody that they had to go again. Liverpool, when they were dominating. Manchester United, every time they won a title, they would then go and just bring one or two players in just to freshen it up, keep everybody on their toes. And that's not what's happened at City. It's still not enough of an excuse, may I add, because 16 points is too much of a deficit.
Is it key not just to strengthen Niall, but to do it early as well? Does the planning have to start now for next season's challenge?
Yeah, I think it was probably fair to say that everybody knew Van Persie was heading to Man United as soon as the transfer window came open. I know there was a game played out over a period of time, and I think United had done their work by that stage. I think that's something that Mancini has also spoke about, that he wished he'd had it in the bag and that you were turning up for your first day of pre-season with all your dealings done. It's the same in any part of the league, whether you're down the bottom or in the middle of the league. That's the best way to go. But when you're at the top, it's essential because they're all the great players. You know, you're talking about signing the top of the pops, if you like, and it's hard the nearer you get to the end of August with the work that other clubs will have done. I mean, Mancini mentioned a couple of players that went to German clubs before they could even get interested, stuff like that. But having said that, there was changes behind the scenes here in terms of the direction the football club was going. Brian Marwood got moved on, and other people have come in. It'll be interesting to see what they do and the influence they have over the next 6-8 weeks.
Indeed, a very big summer ahead for Manchester City. We talked